For a global business update, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Michael. I was going to say Mr. Wilson.
Good morning. Asia Pacific, fairly mixed, but there's been a lot going on. The dollar has reached a 2-decade high in its own particular index. Oil prices also up today. Remember, OPEC Plus meets today, and the G7 reached an agreement to put a cap on Russian oil prices. Whether or not, of course, that works depends upon countries like China and India, but more of that. The Hang Seng up very slightly, Shenzhen component down about 0.4%. The private purchasing managers index in China came in at 55 compared with July's print of 55.5. So, generally speaking, things more or less unchanged in China, a slight reduction. It turns out that the US and China are a step closer to, do you remember the business about, the audit controls and so on? This concerns particularly companies like Alibaba and so on. The US Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, the PCAOB, is going to Hong Kong in a month's time, and what needs to happen next is that companies are inspected by the US. Whether China allows that to happen, of course, is a different matter. Here's something interesting it's good to, sometimes step outside what happens every day and take a look at what's really going on. And this is about the logistics company Brambles. This is an Australian company. Of all things, they make pallets, but 80% of consumer goods actually touch one of those pallets in between the journey from producer to sale. And what they're actually saying is that companies which loaded up very, very heavily before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, because they were worried about supply chains, are now unloading a lot of their goods. So you make your own conclusions really about what that will mean for consumer company profits as their results come in. US recap, the jobs figures were solid really from the United States. I think that's the way to look at them, but not spectacular. The unemployment rate didn't really see an increase of what was it, 3.5 to 3.7%. I mean, these figures do get revised, so it's probably not a great deal of concern or a great deal of wisdom really to apply too much to them. China and India are being urged by the EU to take notice, particularly of what's happening with the price cap on Russian oil. Now, as I said, that G7 agreed that, but really the EU is agreeing to it too. Whether it will actually happen, of course, depends on the players themselves and does depend on China and India, because as we know, they apparently have been buying cheap oil. The EU is also saying that it's not afraid of Putin or the halted gas supplies. What it's saying right now is that it may be down to companies sharing, it may be down to energy rationing and all the rest of it, and it may be that there will be more storage. Germany has announced a 65 billion euro package of measures to ease the threat of the energy shortage around, and it's payments to the most vulnerable, also to energy specific and big using energy companies. OPEC meets today, OPEC Plus meets today, crude oil sell-off there has been, but basically the people who run it, which is, whether you like it or not, is Saudi Arabia, are under a considerable amount of pressure, particularly from the Crown Prince of Saudi, to keep oil at $100 a barrel. The UK, well, it looks like Liz Truss is probably going to do it, but the question is, what will she do? What time scale will it involve? Where will energy help be actually targeted and so on? It appears that CEOs of British companies are actually behind her as far as helping out on energy is concerned. Is she fiscally prudent? That's one thing which, again, we won't know. So we'll know, this will be confirmed around about 1 o'clock, around about 12:30 today. Very, very quick turnaround. Then she gets to see what terrible state the economy's in at the moment, and she'll get that around about 1 o'clock, both our times. If I cast your minds back to something you may or may not remember, but when the Tories finally took over in the 2006 election, I think it was, when they took over from Labour, there was a little note in a drawer saying, surprise, surprise, there's no money left. Well, I don't think there are any surprises awaiting Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak when they actually get there in terms of the finances of the country. It's a question really of how will she or how will one or the other of them achieve growth. That's the first kind of thing. That's the absolute definite. But it's going to be very, very difficult indeed. I wouldn't like the job, and I'm sure you wouldn't either. As far as the week coming up is concerned, China trade numbers, but perhaps slightly more importantly, the ECB rate setting meeting is this sort of Wednesday. So we're probably going to hear Wednesday, Thursday, an idea of what they're going to do with interest rates to combat inflation within the EU. And it'll be very, very difficult, as I keep saying, because there are so many different economies involved. So big week this week, not just OPEC today, new British Prime Minister today, and then the ECB meeting later in the week. So lots to look forward to in terms of statistics and where the various economies are going. That's the global view.
Right, thank you, Michael. Yes, I don't think I'd like that job either. It really does seem like such a poison chalice. And if you look at the polls from this morning, that's been reported this morning, YouGov polls, the general British public don't really believe that Liz Truss is capable at this time. I wanted your take on that. What's now being discussed is this Operation Shock and Awe that she has up her sleeve. She's going to go big, and she's going to really attack the cost of living crisis and inflation, that double whammy that's attacking the British economy right now. But how? It's all very well and good to bandy around these feel-good bromides to create the illusion that you're solving a problem. But how? How is that all that going to be funded? Borrowing, I imagine.
Well, yes, and I think sterling has been weakening as a result of that as well. So people are taking a very, very close view of what's happening in the UK economy. I mean, the latest of the ideas may well be to freeze energy costs in terms of bills and then spread that cost over the coming years. But either way, it's a very, very difficult thing to do. Should the country be borrowing more? Probably not. But then again, who knows? I mean, things tend to get turned on the head. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's I think. Well, I think you're half right. I don't think we want any bromides anymore. I think most people understand that things are going to be fairly terrible. They'll be interested to see how things are going to be helped out. But I think you're absolutely right in terms of the scepticism which people are now looking at the government. And I'm sure it's the same in other countries as well. Not so much maybe in the United States, but certainly here, I think most people in the street are very sceptical about what can be done because there seems so little room for manoeuvre.
Okay, it's clear in any case that whoever becomes Prime Minister tomorrow, Liz Truss, will be inheriting an economic catastrophe. But in any case, she's not alone. That's the situation in the whole of Europe right now and in other parts of the world. But I wanted to talk about the EU countries saying, they are not bothered about, Russia cutting off gas supplies. But we are already having expressions of discontent among the people. In Prague yesterday, that's Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic, there were protests. The people were saying, look, stop the sanctions against Russia. This hardship is too much. In northern Germany also yesterday, people are protesting. They're saying, look, can you open the Nord Stream 2 because of this hardship? Are we likely to see a spread of discontent, despite the confidence that is being expressed by EU leaders who will be meeting on September 9 to do what Germany is has announced, what Liz Truss is proposing to do to help the people with the energy crisis. As for G7, putting a cap on Russian oil prices, well, is that a symbolic move? How effective will it be? Considering the fact, as you pointed out, that India and China have never been part of these sanctions. Where are they going to put that cap? Because if they don't put that cap below, far below, the rate at which Russian oil is trading at the moment, then of course it will have no impact whatsoever. I don't know what you think of that. And what do you imagine that OPEC Plus will do today? Would they retain the production quota, or there will be a small production cut? And whichever way, if Iran goes through with the deal, well, what should we expect in terms of oil prices?
There's a very important thing when building a team of people, and it doesn't matter what sort of industry you're in. What you do is remind the people that it's only as strong as its weakest link. And this applies to cuts in oil. This applies to OPEC. This also applies to the way in which the EU is apparently saying we're not afraid of Putin. They should be, because they're going to say, the protests are a waste of time. What do people think that they're going to achieve with protests? Will they rattle politicians? They may well do, but can the politicians actually do anything? No, they can't. The only thing to do is to be robust about it and say to people, look, here's real life. We've been, the COP26 stuff about, getting green by 2030 is clearly now so out of date and sounds so stupid now, when we are actually thinking, how on earth do we keep industries actually going? That seems to be the price of it. And I think that people can protest as much as they like. The reality of the situation is that there isn't a great deal of manoeuvre. I'm with you. I feel that there is a bit of posturing as far as the EU's concerned. I mean, Germany, as I said to you, has already come up with this enormous package. How on earth they're going to pay for that, I simply do not know. And they're reaping, the Angela Merkel attitude. She's gone now, of course, but originally her friendship with Russia and almost total reliance upon energy supply. So I think the road ahead is going to be very difficult. I can't give you a clear-cut reply to what I agree with you. I think it's going to be very, very difficult indeed. I think as far as OPEC's concerned, it will go the way that Saudi Arabia wants it to go. And I think that what they will do is they will cut production, or at least they won't increase it by as much as they have, to make sure that the oil is about $100 a barrel, because that's what Saudi actually wants. And what Saudi wants, Saudi will get.
Right, thank you, Michael. Now for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Ejiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Tundu. Good to see you again. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning. If I see the both of us, we all got the memo on blue suits and white shirts and red ties this morning. All right.
I didn't get it.
Tundu, join us. We begin with oil and gas. You've seen the back and forth between customs and the NNPC. Remember last week we went through some quotes from the head of customs, who was accusing them of not having proper data on consumption. So the NNPC has come out and says, hey, okay, we're ready for a fuel consumption audit. So let's take it back. Let's first of all go back and revisit the comments from the head of customs. I remember that last year, this is in front of the House of Reps, medium-term expenditure framework, fiscal paper and all that. I remember that last year we spoke about this. Unfortunately, this year we're talking about subsidy again. Over 11 trillion we're going to take as debt. More than half is going to subsidy. That's Colonel Hamed Ali, Comptroller General of Customs. And then he continued saying that if we are consuming 60 million liters of PMS per day by their own computation, why would you allow the release of 98 million liters per day? If you know this is our consumption, why would you allow that release? He continued again. He had a really long quote, just broke down some particular parts. Then says, so how did you get to 60 million liters per day? That's my question. The issue of smuggling, if you release 98 million liters in actual and 60 million liters are used, the balance should be 38 million liters. How many trucks will carry 38 million liters per day? Which road are they following? And where are they carrying this thing to? So the NNPC, in a statement yesterday, they put out some data saying that, 2021, they imported 22.35 billion liters of petrol. They said it works out to about 68 million liters per day. They supplied 68 million liters from January through August of this year. As far as the depot loading data is concerned, it comes out to, that is, you bring the fuel in, you get it to the depots, they load up and they put them out. According to the NMDPRA, the Petroleum Regulatory Authority, midstream and downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, that worked out to about 67 million liters. And then for this, and this is where things get interesting, the average landing costs for the second quarter of this year came out to about $1.28. That's per metric ton. Now, then the approved marketing and distribution costs came out to 46 naira per liter. So you add all that up, and essentially, let's move into this quote from Garberdine. He says that when you put all those figures together, the combination of these cost elements translates to a retail pump price of 462 naira per liter, and an average subsidy of 297, and an annual estimate of 6.5 trillion on the consumption of 60 million liters daily petrol. So the IMF, they were bang on when they said we're going to do about 6 trillion naira in subsidies for this year. So this will be continuously be adjusted by markets and demand realities. It is, and that's Garberdine. Now, it's very interesting to note that 462 naira per liter, it kind of comes out to the official exchange rates of about 429 or so. Then you're not adding all those extra costs. Then it also said, we will continue to deliver on our mandate to ensure energy security for our country with integrity and transparency. We invite any forensic audit of the PMS supply and subsidy management framework of the NNPC. Now remember, there is an ad hoc committee that is presently looking at this, and we lamented this last week, did we not? We moved to the export processes on NNPC, the Export Processing Zone Authority. Very interesting here. They are partnering with Binance and Binance and Talent City in order to set up a digital virtual export zone. Binance, as you know, is a cryptocurrency. They know. I think they know. Okay. Binance is a cryptocurrency exchange, and Talent City is, I think it's Aboyeji, right? You have a former Flutter as well. Talent City wants to integrate remote work, super fast internet in just this whole digital zone. They want to integrate all that together for this a zone where things just move very quickly, and you've got this whole digital internet super fast processing world. So they want to, the Nigerian government wants to replicate what Dubai has. Dubai is also working on a virtual free zone. Essentially, no taxes, no tariffs, nothing like that, and you can be anywhere in the world and essentially operate through this this zone. So the future is looking, I mean, they want to also, operate on blockchain technology and so on and so forth. The question, of course, comes with payments of these cryptocurrencies will somehow come into this. Remember, the SEC already put out a framework on the regulation of digital currencies, right? So that's there. And then, so we'll see how this develops going forward. Well, yeah, INAIRA, right. INAIRA should also be in that conversation as well. Kenya is planning to increase fuel taxes. I also hear that they're also planning on removing subsidies. Here's a quote from the Kenya election is over. In fact, we should get, the Supreme Court is deciding today. Yeah. I believe, today. The Supreme Court is deciding today on the Odinga petition. So in exercise of the powers conferred by Section 10 of the Excise Duty Act, again, this is Kenya, 2015, the Commissioner General adjusts for inflation the specific rates for duty set out in the schedule here in accordance with the formula. So basically, inflation is what, and the average of 6.3%, but they're adjusting inflation, they're adjusting their fuel taxes. South Africa does the same thing. I think Ghana does the same thing. Kenya, taxes on fuel because of how much spending they've done and subsidies and so on, what it's cost the government. Well,
we don't seem to have additional time. It will have been nice to comment on some of those issues that you raised, but fine. Tomorrow we get into it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rotus.